Good evening, board members and residents. I'd like to call to order our regular board meeting for Monday, July 28th, 2025. And I'd ask that everyone present please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Backens?
Here.
Mr. Brado? Here. Ms. Brown?
Here.
Mr. Olgiati? Here. Mr. Tominello?
Here.
Mr. Witt? Here. Mr. Verkowski?
Here, thank you. Next is the approval of the consent agenda, including approval of the regular board meeting minutes of July 14th, 2025, a brass purchase from Aetna Supply for our water and sewer department, approval of the bills in the amount of $1,112,215.09, and approval of the June 2025 revenue and expenditure report. Unless there are any changes, I would be looking for a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
So moved.
All right, is there support? Support. Got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Olgiati. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next, item B, approval of the regular agenda. Board members, there is an additional item that was proposed to be added as E4, which was repairs to Squad 3. So I'd be looking for a motion, unless there are changes, be looking for a motion to approve the agenda with the addition of item E4.
So moved.
All right, is there support?
Support.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Tominello with support by Mrs. Brown. Discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. Next is announcements. I do have a few announcements. This Saturday is our annual Parade of Lights on the Clinton River, so please visit our website for a copy of the flyer and event details. The Tucker Senior Center has a new fun event available for township seniors, the Summer Discovery Cruise. Please visit the township website or call the Senior Center for more information, 586-466-1497. You can join the Harrison Township Public Library for K-9 in Action tomorrow, Tuesday, July 29th at 1 p.m., where you will get to learn all about the Macomb County Sheriff K-9 unit and even meet one of the K-9 officers. Registration is required, so please contact the library if you wish to attend, 586-329-1261. Just a friendly reminder that all yard waste must be in a clearly marked container or brown leaf bags with all twigs tied up in a bundle that weighs no more than 40 pounds per bundle. The twigs may be up to 3 feet in length and 2 inches in diameter, and you may have up to 5 bundles per week. For yard waste and all waste hauler details, please visit the township website under the Residents tab. And for more information on these, as well as all other township events, you can call the supervisor's office at 586-466-1445 or visit our website at www.harrisontownshipmi.gov. Any other announcements? Report on the concert or anything? No? All right. Next on the agenda is item D1 from the clerk's office.
Yes. So the state of Michigan has now officially joined 2 new opioid settlements as part of the national opioid lawsuits. One for Alvogen, Amneal, Apotex, Hikma, Indivior, Mylan, Sun, and Zydus, and another for the Purdue and Sackler family. The settlement does require that the subdivisions enter into the settlement as well within 120 days from the settlement. The township has already signed on with several settlements as part of the ongoing lawsuits. The projected recovery is based on the percentage in that formula, but again, it's like a billionth of a percent of this $1 billion settlement. So it's all set out in the court documents. Mr. Huth's firm is representing us in partnership with a larger national firm, and they have recommended that approve the settlements.
Any discussion, or is there a motion?
Make a motion to authorize Harrison Township to opt in the Alvogen, Aminaleo, Apotex, Hikma, Indivire, Mylan, Sun, and Zydius, and other for Purdue. Is that correct?
Yep.
And another for
And
Purdue.
Sackler's National Opioid Lawsuit Settlements as proposed.
All right, is there support?
Support.
Much easier to support the motion than to make the motion.
Yes, it is. Thank you.
Got a motion by Mr. Tavanello, support by Mr. Brado. Any discussion on the motion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, this doesn't require a roll call. No, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Next, item D2, from the clerk's office.
Yes. So this is the ordinance that we adopted or introduced at our last board meeting that governs the parking of recreational vehicles on the street, where ORVs can be operated within the township. Goes over penalties and all that kind of stuff for the legislature, for violations of the ordinance. So at this point, the board was considering adoption.
So the proposed motion would be to adopt an ordinance 409 to amend Chapter 86 of Code of Ordinances to regulate the parking of recreational vehicles, to prohibit the operation of ORVs on public streets within the township, and to provide for repealer, severability, penalties, and effective date. Is there someone who would like to make that motion?
I'll make that motion.
All right, Mr. Badkins, is there support for the motion?
Support.
All right, we've got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Olgiati. Discussion? I'm guessing that the gentleman in the audience, we typically have a on-deck chair set up and it isn't, but I'm guessing that you're here. Did you wish to make public comment or no? Okay, this is when we open the floor for public comment.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment that I'm very pleased with the board that you considered this public parking ordinance. I had discussions with Ken about it when I initially proposed it. Based on some observations I've seen around my own neighborhood and other areas in the township, safety issues with large vehicles being parked on some of the streets that, in the newer subdivisions especially. I've experienced a couple of different incidents, I guess you'd call them, myself, where I almost had an accident due to, sightline blockage from these large vehicles and so forth. So I just wanted to thank the board. Thank you for considering this. Thank you for moving forward with it. Very, very happy, and I think it's going to help public safety, in the township. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other public comment, we'll close the floor for public comment. Is there any further board comment?
So I do have a question. I had a resident call me today, and the way I read the ordinance, this is not only parking in the streets, but it would be parking in the road right of way. And his concern was, I believe it was like a 35 or 40-foot motorhome that was backed up to the house, but it was hanging out past the typical road right of way, which is like a telephone pole.
Yeah, set
It was
back
like-
from
it
the
was-
road.
Yeah,
yeah.
it was like 4 foot from the road. And the way I read it, and what I explained to him, is I would also interpret that as being a violation of this ordinance. And I just wanted to make sure that I provided him the right information based on the way the ordinance reads.
Yeah, so this is one of those interpretive issues. So including public right-of-way, we're addressing certain areas where, there might be, I guess what I would say is, like sometimes we have right-of-way that isn't a road, but it was established or dedicated as a road right-of-way. So I think this is one of those interpretive issues where if someone says, well, hey, this RV is in someone's driveway, it would require an interpretation of that to say, well, I'm going to issue someone a ticket or a violation because they've parked a recreational vehicle in their driveway, but technically close enough to the road that it qualifies as the right-of-way. And I'm going to look to Mr. Huth here, but I think this is probably like, we probably want to include right-of-way, but it doesn't mean that we would have to say like, oh, well, you're, I don't know, 5 feet from the curb, 10 feet from the curb in your driveway, and therefore you should be issued a violation.
Yeah, I think what it does is gives whoever's writing the tickets to use discretion. So if somebody's had their RV out there in their corner lot and people are unable to see oncoming traffic around the corner or bicyclists or something, to warn somebody, hey, you're in the right of way, and then if there's pushback, there's the ability to write a ticket there.
And to be honest, it's already illegal to park within the road right away under our zoning ordinance.
It is.
You're 30, so I mean, it's not
It
a
is.
change.
It is.
It's already illegal.
Yes, it
Yeah.
is. It's under parking, I believe.
But I think if someone were had a recreational vehicle in their driveway, there's probably one neighborhood where it's probably a line of sight issue and it could be hazardous, and there's probably another, someone who's at a dead end where it's hard to say that the very last home on a dead end is really causing a line of sight issue if they've got a vehicle in their driveway, but the bumper of it is in the road right of way. So,
I mean, this is probably a little more liberal than what our zoning ordinance says. You can't be 10 feet from the lot line.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good. Thank you very much.
all right. Any other discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion by Mr. Badkins with support by Mr. Olgiati. Mr. Witt, will you please take the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Backens?
Yes.
Mr. Olgiati?
Yes.
Mr. Brado?
Yes.
Mrs. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Tominello?
Yes.
Mr. Witt? Yes. Mr.
Yes, thank you, Board. Next on the agenda, item E1 regarding engineering services. Board members, we have had the same engineering services provider for as long as I have been a member of the Board of Trustees, at least 17 years. I believe it is time to solicit proposals for engineering services. I reached out to Sterling Heights and asked for their RFP as they recently solicited proposals for engineering services. I modified the RFP to suit our needs and shared it with the attorney, clerk, and treasurer to get their feedback. I incorporated their suggestions, and I believe it is ready for distribution. I recommend that we approve the request for proposal and solicit proposals for engineering services with a recommendation from the 3 full-time officials to come back before the board. When I wrote this, that was a proposal, it was kind of the position I had. Since the agenda was set, there was kind of a discussion, do we want maybe more input from the Board of Trustees? I can tell you that when we review these proposals, at least in terms of staff members that regularly deal with our engineering firm, specifically Mr. Murphy and our public services director, our building official, Mr. Condon, we want them to be a part of that kind of review because they deal with these folks regularly as a part of their job, and I value their input. If the board feels that there should be more board involvement in the process, we can consider that. But at this point, the idea was that we would go through the scoring system collectively with input from staff members and come back with a recommendation. If that's okay, good. If the board wants to be a greater part of that, let me know and we can revise this approach.
How many bids are you looking for?
So it's a good question. Interesting because in reviewing Sterling Heights RFP, they utilize Mitten. They have Mitten is an acronym, but it's basically an online outfit that you can solicit bids and submit things electronically, and it gets posted. And we don't subscribe to Mitten. We don't pay for that annual fee. So what I did do is created a list of engineering firms and, let's see, consulting, list of engineering firms. So I did my best, just kind of reviewed emails.
Does not subscribe to Mint, which is an online
Wow, Google.
Wow, Google's listening. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 engineering firms that do provide services in the Metro Detroit area. So I'm literally, if this is approved, I'm gonna send out this RFP to these 10 firms, because it is highly likely that one of these 10 firms would be selected, that's right. But we will post it to our website, and so if somebody happens to come across it or hear about it,
And you
there's-
you could probably share that list with the board in case there's somebody ran across somebody at a conference.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
oh, I didn't talk to them.
Yeah, that's for sure. And I shared that list again with the attorney
Yeah.
and the other two full-timers to say, is there somebody that I missed? But I'm happy to share that list, in the event that someone says, hey, you forgot this firm or that firm, whatever that might be.
Does our contract with the engineer firm, right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Wade Trim is our engineer? that we use right now?
Yep.
Is that a yearly contract with them, or is it?
I mean, at this point,
at
this point, I don't even know that we have
We've never had like a retainer agreement with
Okay.
Wade
Yeah.
Trim. We basically have an agreement that they're our engineer and they cover costs at a certain rate schedule, and we've gone through and approved that rate schedule.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't 100% sure, because I don't ever remember seeing anything on the agenda.
Yeah, it's been a while, part of what we did when we modified the Sterling Heights RFP, Sterling Heights has their own in-house engineer. So when they solicit engineering firms, these are firms that are gonna help with projects that are bigger than what their in-house staff can handle. In our case, that's not the case. We need a dedicated, assigned person. So one of the changes that I made was establishing this township engineer position and saying, you need to tell us, who this might be and the services they provide and specific to that. For a long time, we had the same individual assigned to us. And, those relationships are important. People kind of establish, they get to know the township, they get to know the staff members, and that person retired. At this point, we're not as happy with the relationship as we once were, and we do think it's probably time to take a second look at it. But it'll be ultimately up to the board to decide which way we go. Again, there's a point system here. The process that I'm proposing to follow, mirroring that of Sterling Heights, there's always a discussion about whether or not, I guess I'll use this analogy. If we're hiring someone to put floor mats down once a week, probably cost is the primary thing. But if you're hiring a brain surgeon, qualifications are really important and cost may not be your primary driver. Sometimes you're somewhere in between there. So the way this RFP is done is that initially we analyze proposals based on qualifications. And then, and only then, once we kind of look at that, we take a look at what the cost proposal is and then incorporate that into the analysis. I think it's a pretty thorough process. And there are, a pretty diverse list of firms here. I'm just sending that out, so.
I would like to make a motion to allow the 3 full-timers to put out bids for requests for proposals for new engineering service for the township, and with them reporting back to the Board of Trustees when they've made their final decisions, or not final decisions, but when they've analyzed all the different bids.
Yeah, so we'd come back with a recommendation. We may have, and so, let me just say, I'm first, motion by Mr. Olgiati. Is there support?
Support.
Okay. And sometimes as the case goes, like we might get to a point where we say, boy, it's really clear that we feel firm number 7 is the best provider and we've, unanimously recommend 7. We could say really we're stuck between firm number 3 and number 6 and maybe we propose we can always come back, do some sort of workshop or some sort of additional step. But I think that's a good approach and a good motion. Discussion on the motion.
Excuse me, the confidential cost proposal breakdown. Is there any place they're gonna plug in labor rates for specific folks? Because I don't see that breakdown unless I skipped over it.
That's what.
That's what the cost proposal is. They're gonna say, these are the,
Surveyor number one cost $100 an hour, a survey class two cost $100.
So it's just not part, it's a,
You get it in a separate envelope, so that way you're evaluating on quality and then.
yeah.
also, I guess Wade Trim right now has control of a lot of our documents. Is that a true statement?
Custody, yeah, I would say control, custody, yeah. When you establish that relationship, you're counting, hey, can you give me this document? Can you give me that document? Right?
So everything that they had, because they've been, they've been with
Yeah.
us for a
No, I know
while.
exactly where you're going. Go ahead.
So,
Yep.
so finish it because I
Yeah.
don't, so I don't say.
So here's the concern. Well, what happens moving forward? So, and I think Mr. Witt can address it best, but the idea is, we all swim in the same pond. The last thing that any firm, whether it's a future firm or our past firm, wants to do is say, to heck with you, I'm not gonna participate. So when I ask the same question, Mr. Witt went through this process when he was
Yeah,
deputy.
When we switched from AEW to Wade Trimmer, at that time, Wade, it was much more physical, but AEW went and drove it all to Wade Trim and said, here you go. And part of the other thing that we talked about at the time was concerned about handoff. And we're like, well, let's let AEW finish the projects. And Wade Trim was like, we'll just take it. And AEW was like, yep, just let them take it. Clean break in there. And they, at the time, they honored the rates of whatever we had bid on to carry forward.
Yeah, and I think another way to state it is, so at that time, AEW really wouldn't have benefited by saying, well, I'm gonna just burn everything to the
It's
ground.
ultimately our property.
Right, it is.
It is legally our document.
But if you take that kind of an approach, then pretty soon other municipalities say, wow, that was really a negative experience when we exited relationships with one firm, and went to another. And, that's gonna impact that decision moving forward. So I guess my answer is, historically, it's not been a concern, right? In past interchanges, both within our municipality and with others. Now, does someone choose to say, well, I'm gonna make it as difficult as possible? Yeah, but what does that do for your reputation when you're all playing in the same sandbox?
Well, there are crazy business owners out there.
They are, but, and
just
there
never
are
know.
crazy municipalities too, right?
Well, yeah. So it looks like on or around September 22nd is when we possibly take action.
I think so.
How many Wade Trim projects will still be open in September?
More than I could tell you.
Yeah, I'm not prepared to say, right?
So I think it would be critical when we get down to the top three. I'd like to sit through some of those meetings and possibly walk through a couple of the larger projects. And I feel fully confident in three full-timers and Brent and having the right people there and Justin and maybe some of those folks. But I would just, if it's possible, I wouldn't mind being a fly on the wall if it was.
Well, and so a couple things. One is, and this is one of the considerations that we had internally. So are we talking about the transition or the selection of a firm? Are you talking about wanting to participate in the transition, or are you talking about wanting to participate in the process of narrowing down the choices?
I'm more worried about the transition.
Right.
Myself, I have, like I said, I have
Yeah.
confidence in the three full-timers and the
Yeah.
other folks you mentioned.
Yep.
So when it came to that transition, I would really like to be.
Yeah, absolutely. And so as long as, one of the full-timers isn't a part of that process. So what we run into is when we have 4 board members, now you've got a quorum and you've got,
And it's
Open
much
meetings
more of an issue when we're working towards a decision on who we're going to. On the other side, if you're saying like, hey, I'd like to just come in and watch, like that's, you know what I mean? Like you're not really
Ask
participating as
questions,
a
participate, yeah.
deliberating decision at that point.
yeah, yeah. So there's certainly an openness if anybody, and again, this was the whole idea. If the board said, no, we want this process to be much more
When we did-
collaborative with the 7 of
When we
us.
did it 20 years ago, we sat down here on a Saturday, 2 Saturdays in a row, and one Saturday we opened all the packets, the next Saturday we had everyone come in and do a presentation on their stuff. It was much more fingers in it from the board.
Right. And I didn't propose that because my opinion is if you're comfortable with the department heads that are working with these engineering firms and they say, gosh, we really like firm number 6, do you really need to see if they're, talk to them on a Saturday and participate. But if you did, that's why I kind of said, I'm open to either one. Once we get to the transition phase, yeah, participation, no problem. Does that answer your question, Mr. Badkins?
It does, and I guess, is it possible in the next month to get a list of the open jobs that we can expect to be?
Yeah, I
have to
mean, the
work through
easiest.
transition? If
The
that-
easiest way is Wade Trim sends us monthly billings.
Yeah.
So I could forward to the board the last 2 months of invoicing, because clearly, how do you know what they're working on? Well, they're sending me invoices, right? So as an example, I think one of them is we had previously approved work that's being done by Wade Trim for Selfridge Air Base. This is that kind of that community relationship. They just pay us for it. We're a little bit more nimble than the federal government, so we can hire a firm. They can agree as long as it's under a certain. So that would be an example where we would probably finish that relationship, right? But so how about if I sent the last two? You got it?
I got it up, so I
Yeah.
forwarded it on to the.
So we'll send the last 2 months worth of invoices, and that should itemize
that-
the various projects.
Just to start looking at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Good. Any other discussion?
Is Wade Trim one of your 10?
It's one of the 10. Yeah,
Okay.
I sent it to everybody, but yeah, it's Wade
Okay.
Trim, AEW, Fishbeck, Spalding, DeDecker, Williams and Works, HRC, Hubble, Roth and Clark, Fleece and Brandon, Vandenbrink, Tri-County Engineering Consultants, OHM Advisors, and Giffords Webster. So that's the list of
Thank
10
you.
that I came up with from just looking through records and Googling it. Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Board. And I think to your point, Mr. Badkins, when we talk about the, where was that? Confidential cost proposal. It says provide a breakdown of annual fees. I can include hourly rates.
Well, that's
think
what I saw was
Yeah, and-
was the annual fee. I
Yep.
didn't see anything about hourly rate. That's why I asked.
And hourly rates. Yeah, they're currently doing the spillway pedestrian bridge. Yep. So, I'll add that. And I think that clarifies it, because I see I get the question and understand why you asked. All right, if we're good, then we'll move on to item E2, regarding 5 tax foreclosed properties for purchase. Board members, we received the list of tax foreclosed properties available for purchase this year. Each municipality is given the first right of refusal to purchase properties in their community with certain qualifiers. The treasurer generally doesn't like to sell owner-occupied properties, so there are some exceptions, but in this case, we didn't have any exceptions associated with the 5 parcels. The parcels that are in Harrison Township are listed on page 8 of the list of properties that I included in the board packet. They are 50-foot wide vacant lots on Father Street. Father Street hasn't been developed. There's water service on there. There is no sewer and there's no road. It's basically a wooded area. We already own 1 lot on Father Street, which was acquired through a previous tax foreclosed property purchase. I believe purchasing these additional lots will enable us to help with the development of the street while protecting our interest in the Macomb County Sheriff's Department mini station at the corner of Father Street and South River Road. The recommendation is that we purchase the 5 lots on Father Street through the tax foreclosure process at a total cost of $6,435.02, plus an additional $30 recording fee. The primary concern that I have is the parking for the police mini station is east of the building. It's a gravel area, and a portion of the area that we utilize for parking is actually road right-of-way for Father Street. In the event that Father Street is developed, we would lose some of that parking. And I think it would be valuable for us to be at the table in in this, discussion when properties are being acquired, traded, purchased. Having a stake in there probably gives us leverage to accept proposals or otherwise be at the table. Not having property when this is considered means that the only tool we have to barter is cash. This gives us, about, I guess what, 300 linear feet of property on the road if we buy this and combine it with the existing lot. So I feel like $6,500 is a low price to be able to be at the table, and potentially, be a partner in a way to see one of the last little strips of land that, could result in some new homes and new taxable value for the township and for the other taxing entities. So I recommend that we purchase the 5 lots on Father Street through the tax foreclosure process at a total cost of $6,435.02 plus an additional $30 recording fee.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Is there support?
I'm happy to support it, but I wondered if it makes sense to add some money. Sometimes when you go to the treasurer and say, hey, we're ready to buy those, they go, well, actually, there was an extra $50 that we didn't know about.
Sure. So
Maybe
that,
like a
yeah.
not to exceed $8,000
Yep,
amount?
so here's what I did, that's a great point, and I contemplated it. So the response, so I specifically asked that question of the staff member at the treasurer's office, and I said, I also wanted to confirm the total due, or are there some additional taxes and interest, fees? The answer was the purchase price is $6,435.02. Plus, there is an additional $30 recording fee to record the deed. It would seem to me that there's likely a deed for each property, right?
Right.
So it could be $30 times 5 and not $30. So I guess if you wanted to consider, I don't know, $6,700, I don't know what that would be, another, if we said $6,435 plus an additional, it could be up to, I guess, $150 from my understanding. But to your point, if you said 7, not to exceed 7,000, I know we'd be covered.
I just know we've ran into it in the past where we're like, yeah, there was an HOA, and I know there's not an HOA there, but
Yeah.
rather than have to come back later.
Yeah, obviously, so I don't know, Mr. Badkins, if you'd be comfortable with a not to exceed 7,000?
Yep.
Okay,
Okay with that.
and support?
Yeah.
And clearly, if they said, oh, well, actually, no, if there's another 50,000 we didn't talk about, we've got to, reconsider this, so you've got that
Yep.
as the motion or the modification. Discussion on the motion.
Not a discussion on the motion, I just was kind of curious, what's our relationship with the sheriff's department in terms of a commitment and time frame over there? We have a contract with them?
Yeah, so it's
Station?
typically a 4-year contract.
Okay.
Yep. In terms of a history, we've contracted with the sheriff's department for additional services. Again, as long as, it was prior to me being supervisor. I don't know if that began with Tony or if that
Prior
preceded Tony.
to, yeah.
Yeah. So we're going back, I don't know, I'd have to guess at least 25 years. I feel like it's likely that we'll continue that relationship. But if we were to either consider our own department or a relationship with another provider, which, again, I would doubt, we probably still need that facility. And so we're gonna need that parking, and from time to time, I do know that, like the sheriff's office has various pieces of equipment, whether it's a command center or a jet ski or, something that they're looking, like, can we park it here, can we store it there? So I do think, having some additional parking would be of a benefit to the sheriff's office, if the end result of this resulted in additional space, I think it would benefit, our residents.
One last question. Do
Yeah.
we own the property that the mini station is on?
That's our facility, it's our station. So what we do is, as an expense, the general fund owns the building.
Okay.
And as an expense built into our budget, we have a monthly fee that the police millage pays the general fund to cover things like electricity, ongoing maintenance, whether it's plowing or things like that. So when you think about it, we really have kind of, sort of like ignoring water and sewer department for the moment, we kind of have a police millage, and budget, a fire millage and budget, and we have the general fund. General fund owns it because the police fund couldn't own it, but the police fund does give, some.
Money towards it, yeah.
Yeah, kind of almost like as if it was technically leasing it, so.
Okay.
Any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Next is the cost share agreement. So I did include some of the historic agreements, but let me find that. Harrison Township entered into 3 separate agreements with the Macomb County Department of Roads in 1987, 1989, and 2018. These agreements address 26 stormwater pump stations that are located in Harrison Township. The most recent agreement in 2018 was that Macomb County Department of Roads would upgrade or rebuild the 26 existing stormwater pump stations. Upon completion, Harrison Township would assume the maintenance of these pump stations. The cost share agreements remain in place. I recommend that we execute the cost share and maintenance agreement for 26 stormwater pump stations with Macomb County Department of Roads. Well, again, history going back to the 80s, the 2 agreements that go back to the 80s really deal with the Huron Point subdivision. A significant investment was made through an SAD by the property owners there, and stormwater is managed by a series of stormwater pumps. At the time, I think the county was best positioned to maintain those pump stations. There are a handful of others, and all of the pump stations were incorporated into the 2018 agreement. What we found is, since that time, the county doesn't have these pump stations or a lot of these pump station agreements with other municipalities. It's kind of unique to Harrison Township because of our proximity to the water. And we do have staff members, we do have people that are on call, and frankly, sometimes people residents, when there's a problem with a pump station, end up calling us. I know that during the flooding in 2019 and in 2020, there were times when we had a problem with a pump station and we'd cut the lock because, we were dealing with, significant issues, and just asked for forgiveness later with the county because there was a need to reset that pump station because people were flooding. So I do think we've reached the point where we are probably better equipped. The cost share agreement is the same. So if a pump station is something we share, if we spend $1,000, we send them a bill for $500, and we take $500 up from general fund. This isn't going to change. This is going to result in additional labor, both on the clerical side and in the field, and that could result in a need for us to, relook at work assignments. There's no way for us to know that, knowing that a majority of these pump stations are either brand new or they've been refurbished. Bottom line, these pump stations serve the residents of Harrison Township directly. They have an impact on whether their road is flooded, whether there's a problem, and, I think when we think of governance, we're accountable to the residents of Harrison Township, very, very directly. I don't know that the county, and this isn't a knock on their agency as a whole, but I don't know that the county's road department is as immediately, accountable. And I think us owning them and operating them or being responsible for the maintenance is the right thing to do. So discussion, questions, or a motion?
I'll make a motion to execute the cost share and maintenance agreement for 26 stormwater pump stations with the Macomb County Department of Roads.
All right, is there support?
Support.
All right. Any discussion, questions?
I guess, looking at the agreement, County will maintain the drainage system. Is that the systems around the pumping stations?
I don't know there's 3 agreements. Actually,
The-
4.
The one that they want us to sign
Number
now,
5 there,
item
Brian?
number 5, sorry.
I think that's addressing the ditches.
So to get the water to the pump stations.
Correct.
Is what that is
Yep.
saying.
Yeah, that's the way I interpret it.
And when you talk about cost share, you mentioned yourself, whether there's additional labor or administrative costs, that's all gonna be rolled up, and then, for instance, 26.87% sent to the county.
Yeah, so for the pumps, so if you look at the one agreement, what date? 87. What they did is they looked at the total volume of land in the Huron Point area, and a certain percent of that land was private, and a certain percent of that land was right-of-way. And the theory, I think, was that, okay, listen, rain falls on all this dirt, and it's gotta go somewhere, so that 20, whatever the percent is, 26.87% really makes up road right-of-way, and the balance of that is private. So that 73% cost is township, 26.87 is DOR. On other pump stations, there's a different cost share. And some it's 50/50, some it's 100%. So if we look at 23, 24, and 25 on the list, Conger Bay is a 50/50 share. The big pump station at the S curve at South River is 100% county, and Jefferson at Ballard is 100% county.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, and the only reason I happen to mention that is I remember, when we do our road projects, we get all kinds of administrative fees piled in there, so, from the county. So just making sure that we stay apples to apples with the county. I know they
Yeah.
treat us very well.
Yeah,
But
so.
making sure the invoices cover the cost of the township.
Yeah, so in some cases, to your point, like you're saying, okay, well, am I being nickeled or dimed? I can't, Harrison Township cannot directly receive certain federal funds because the federal government doesn't recognize the township. They recognize the county, they recognize cities. So if I'm asking another agency to oversee a grant for us, I can understand where they're saying, hey, there's a cost for that, so we charge a fee. In this case, we're taking existing agreements and we're just recodifying them in a new agreement, and we're changing it from they do the work and bill us for a quarter, we do the work and we bill them for 3/4. It's kind of really all that we're switching. So the responsibility is primarily what's shifting.
Right.
So,
Okay.
any other questions or discussion?
Is this amount of work that we're taking on substantial, like we're gonna need to add more employees, or?
Yeah, so the feeling is no. Let's say, in some cases, we get calls on these pump stations and we, spend a certain amount of time trying to address issues with them. I can't say that in the next 20 years that pump number 7 isn't gonna become a nuisance and we're gonna spend a lot of time there and, we might have to, go out and have some work done and, but the thought is that I guess the short answer is yes. The difference though is, someone's gotta do the work. And we have people who are on call. It's a part of our structure. And, like so many other things, when we own these pumps, and when I say own them, I don't mean in a literal sense, but I mean when we have that responsibility, I truly believe our staff will do a better job of doing preventative maintenance and overseeing these, and in the long run will probably be more efficient than the county has been. And that's not a knock on the county.
I think it's best to look at it from like with the rain today, they're gonna worry about Gratiot and Hall Road, no matter how many of these pumps are out on Lake Shore, here on Point subdivision.
Right.
Our guys can give it that attention and address it in a much more timely fashion. And I think the long-term plan is to incorporate these into our SCADA system as well. So some of those things that we have been charged for in the past, where they've had to send a truck out to go look at it because they don't have remote monitoring, we'll have that remote monitoring technology to be able to say like, nope, it just needs to be reset, or, it's no big deal. Next time we drive by, we flick the switch.
Yeah, I think a good way to say it for me anyways is if I was cynical, if I was like, who cares, it's extra work, this wouldn't be before us. What I've learned over the time that I've been supervisor is, we have staff that are better suited for addressing these. But again, short answer, yeah, right now, when pump number 8 goes out, we don't do anything except get an invoice for a certain percent and pay that invoice. If pump 8 goes out now, it's gonna result in a response, but that response, we're gonna bill, right? And when we would have had to pay 73% of that response to the county for them to come out, and maybe they came out 2 days later. But if the response is 2 hours of labor and a truck, we're gonna be able to invoice 2 hours of labor in a truck at 26% to the county, and we would have had to pay the 2 hours in the truck anyways, so
And I guess my question was more of,
hiring.
are we gonna need to hire? Are we ready for that? Like, have a plan for that?
Yeah, I don't think at this time we believe it will result in a hire.
It's not gonna change anything immediately, but
Right.
potentially down the road.
But as a general statement, from the time, again, that I've been supervisor, if we talk about the types of things that our water and sewer staff does, and I'll pause there. We're talking about a group of employees, when they do work for the general fund, they bill the general fund. But we're talking about, Justin, 2 field supervisors, and 8 field personnel. That collective group of 11 individuals have taken responsibility for things that historically we haven't done. I think when I first became supervisor, we had 7 field personnel, and we're at 8. We have an additional field foreman, so we have done some things to make this more robust, but I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago, we voted to authorize fixing 2 culverts under the bike path. If I had to hire a contractor, I could not bring you that and say, this is what that cost is. So, yeah, so we've moved generally in a direction where we've made that staffing larger to give us a little bit more of the redundancy that we need for this. But, if we have 9 water main breaks all at once, it's gonna make it tough. It's gonna put a stress on things, so. Short answer, I don't believe this is gonna result in a hire. But this, combined with other things over a period of time, and maybe doing some more things in-house, could lead to a future expansion of staffing. That's a maybe. So hopefully that answers.
Yes, it does, thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, we've got a motion by Mr. Badkins, with Mr. Brada, with support by Mr. Tominello to approve the cost share agreement. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion carries. Thank you, board. Last is item E4. This was an addition. Squad 3 is our third or backup ambulance. We typically operate an ambulance out of each station. And for redundancy, we keep the best old ambulance as kind of a backup. Squad 3 is that backup ambulance. It's a 2017 Ford with the ambulance mounted on the chassis. 77,000 miles. Sometimes that doesn't tell the whole story because I'm sure the hours on the vehicle are much higher than a typical vehicle that would just be driven. Recently went in for some work on the air conditioning. The turbocharger had also failed, and we had an estimate, or a proposal, I guess what I would say, from Russ Milne Ford, who's typically doing the work on our squads, our Ford squads, $10,026.28 for the AC repair and replacing and servicing the turbocharger and related repair costs. I recommend that, it did come before the 3 full-timers. This is one of those things where we recommended or approved an emergency expenditure because we obviously want to get this back in service. But long-term, even when we do approve an emergency repair, it comes before the board. So last week, we approved the emergency repair, so really looking for a motion to concur with the 3 full-timers to approve the emergency, or to approve repairs to Squad 3 at a cost of $10,026.28.
So moved.
All right, is there support?
Support.
Okay. Motion by Mr. Tominello, support by Mrs. Brown. Discussion?
I guess, I understand why it had to happen so quickly, but we do pay taxes on labor. Is that a true statement? Because they did charge us tax.
I don't know that. I don't know
They
that.
did charge us tax on the labor. That's what that 28409.
Yeah, and this was, that could be, I mean, that's a good catch. We can certainly go back to the chief.
It was just a question, because I know that we're an entity that's tax exempt, but I didn't know if it's on labor. I don't know.
I
that
think
for
tax
sure.
exempt is tax exempt.
Yeah,
Probably a computer-generated estimate, so,
yeah, my guess is it's probably the case. And then, I don't see an hourly rate in this, in the way that they broke it down for the turbo. They charged $25.74 labor, which essentially equates, my phone shut off, so excuse me, like to $3.20 an hour, $321.75. And I base that off of, to change a turbo in a 2017 F450 is 5.2 to 8 hours. So, maybe on future repairs, we can get just a little bit more detail, not that Russ Milne is a bad dealership. but
No.
It just, I question, the shop rates are usually, I'd say right now, probably around $200 an hour for the mechanic, so.
yeah, and I think in some of these cases, these are like, not unlike when they, body shops have, this repair is this many hours. It's like, it's pre-established, this is what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
Right? So,
Yeah, and I noticed that they started it on 7/22 and it was done on 7/23. You know if those dates are accurate?
I don't believe that it was, I think this was
I think that's just when it
generated.
was created.
I was gonna say, if that individual did it in a day.
No, I
need
think
to
it's, I think
hire the
this,
mechanic.
I think this
So-
unit is still in for service,
Okay,
my understanding.
gotcha.
And I know when the chief called me with this, he did point out that in times past, when we've brought in a vehicle, he just pointed out that the Russ Milne repair staff have been very supportive about, maybe in some cases like, hey, going back to Ford and saying, is this something that should be covered under some warranty work? Again, an 8-year-old vehicle with 77,000 miles, you're probably not getting that. But in previous repairs, like when they said, hey, this is just shortly out of warranty or things like that. I know the chief's shared with me that his experience with Russ Milne Ford has been positive as far as.
And I've heard positives from others as well, and I'm not,
Yeah,
I'm certainly not
Yeah.
accusing anybody of, but I look at that rate and I just, maybe a little bit more detail on
Yeah.
emergency would be.
yep,
a
I
little
can
better.
request that. All right, any other discussion? Hearing none, we've got a motion with support to approve the repairs. I will check into the tax. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, board. Next is public comment. So we'll open up the floor for public comment. It can be about any subject that you like. We'd ask that you try to limit that to 5 minutes in length.
C. William Bardell, 29-year resident, clean-cut, do-gooder boy next door. Clean up, fix up, people helping people. Just want to remind everyone, please check out Save Lake St. Clair on Facebook. Press follow and like, stay up to date on everything that's going on. The other thing I want to talk about is I don't believe we should have a low-income Section 8 at Union Lake and Shook on the north east side of Union Lake and Shook. I don't believe we township should allow that. I think it's very incongruent to the township. I don't believe it's going to be a good thing for the township to have Section 8 at Union Lake and Shook. That's my 2 cents, and I believe it. I've just had a lot of experiences with these type of things, and it's not good for the municipalities that have them. And I know a lot of municipalities don't like them, and they always say no to them. And I would hope that we will not allow Section 8 at Shook and Union Lake Road. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? Hearing none, we'll close the floor for public comment and move back to board comment. I'd just like maybe a slight correction. There has been no proposal for Section 8 housing in the township. The township doesn't approve Section 8 housing. That's a relationship between other entities of government and property owners. So we do not consider, we do not approve, we do not play a role in determining what properties are Section 8, number one. Number two, there has been a proposal floated to establish an attainable housing district that would incorporate 2 duplexes, so a total of 4 dwelling spaces. It will be discussed at a public hearing on August 11th. So the board has received a request to consider that, and we will have a public hearing at our next board meeting, August 11th, and we'll accept public comment at that time at the public hearing. There should be some more details then. Any other discussion?
Can maybe the fire station engineering, we've got an engineer on board, is that correct?
Architecture?
Architecture.
Yep.
Do you just have a quick update on when you might get some feedback from them on that?
Yeah, good question. So let's see, we had a kickoff on July 17th, kind of a, big picture. So the process that we're following for this, Partners in Architecture, again, I'm always impressed at just how specialized some of these architects are, and this is specifically what they do. So, on the 17th, we met at Station 1. 2 folks from Partners in Architecture, myself, the chief, and 2 firefighters that he kind of named as a committee to be a part of this process. And so they did things like show plans for, like one example would be a dorm room. So they showed a scenario, one, I think it was City of Warren, doesn't really matter, but they said, here's one example where they call it a Jack and Jill. They have a dorm room, and a restroom in the middle. And they showed another one where they have a dorm room, and immediately outside are 3 lockers that would incorporate 3 platoons. Like, what do you guys think of this as a concept? And one of the takeaways from that was, well, recognizing that you've got, various compatibilities. Hey, I'm normally at Station 1, and this is my dorm room when I'm there, but I've been assigned to Station 2 today, and I normally use this dorm room, but, Firefighter Smith is in that room. You've got different personal relationships, and I said, I think, as an example, I think if we need 6 dorm rooms, just put 6 rooms, put some bathrooms over here, some lockers there, and over a period of time, everybody can choose which ones they want. You've got a Jack and Jill, and there's a restroom in the middle, and that restroom's out of order for some reason. Does that mean I gotta walk through somebody else's dorm room to go use another shower? And, so we talked about those kinds of things. I even kind of talked about, well, are you thinking of an addition here or there? And they were like, no, we're starting at 5,000 feet. What do we want? And we'll gradually get down to kind of more of like a value engineering. I don't think we got together last week, but Station 1 discussion scheduled for 1:30 this Wednesday. So they're going to come back and say, based on the concepts, things you talked about, this is what we're looking at. They look at, because they do so many stations, they look at you've got this much equipment, the average, there's standards, federal standards, guidelines, things like this. This is how many square foot per piece of equipment. There's a greater emphasis on how you, I guess I'll use the term detox. Maybe there's another term that they use, but when you come from the fire grounds, what smoke, what was on fire? What hazardous things were you exposed to? So, you clearly don't want to take your gear off and hang it in your bedroom and then go to sleep. That would be an extreme. So, as time goes on, we get better at saying, okay, well, you come in here, you isolate here, you've got, maybe, for lack of a better word, dirty showers. You wouldn't normally take a shower in that shower, but if you're coming from fire grounds, maybe this is where you, get rid of the bad stuff and move, through the station. So we talked about those kinds of things. So short answer, Wednesday, we should hear back from them on what the next step is.
But you're happy with the progress, just a conversation so far?
Absolutely, and again, and it's just like the architect that we're dealing for this facility, their specialty is library, so they've got these great ideas on a library. Their experience with municipal space isn't as strong, but, when we point out what our needs are, they're very responsive to it, but they don't do fire stations, so you hire them for a fire station, they'd be scratching their heads.
Right.
Yeah, definitely satisfied with the facility here, that architect, as well as the fire station. Since you brought up the architect, I'll just share with the board. The architect that's working on the library, in addition to the engineering building, relocating our administrative offices, they had proposed, should we plan on coming to a meeting? And I said, well, I think the first step is we need to have a set of plans that, 3 full-timers, the department heads are comfortable with. If we get to that and we're like, yep, we've addressed the needs that we have, I said, I'm comfortable in distributing that to board members. I don't know that having them come to a meeting and presenting is as meaningful as, sending documents to everybody. If after everyone has a chance to review what plans we have, I said, we can always have them come in, do a question and answer. But my point is I don't know that it has to be done in a public forum. If you get plans and you have a question, you can email them a question. I feel like we can probably review what plans they have at this preliminary level, without having them come to a meeting. But if we send everything to you, and you guys want a meeting, we'll have them come in. Same with the fire station. So, but in either case, we really don't have anything ready yet that we could, that without saying, well, what's this? Well, we're still working on that. It generate a lot of useless questions.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. Any other board comment? Hearing none, I'd be looking for a motion to adjourn. All right, is there support?
Support.
All right. Any discussion? Hearing none and seeing no public comment, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion carries, meeting adjourned. Thank you, board.
I was gonna say, you wanna see crazy, just try